Hey, it's Luke, warehouse manager here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I found to be one of my favorite subjects. Like when I worked at a shop, what I did most of all is I tried to make sure that people's bikes were comfortable for what it is they wanted to do. You know, the way that I had been kind of talked to is you want to have a drop bar bike and going to be a bit racier, smaller tires. You know, the saddle up here, bars down here for more aero kind of fit, clip-in pedals, all of that. And, you know, I now kind of practice what would be considered perhaps the antithesis of that. And, you know, I've got some of these, the IRD Gordo grips here as an example. Like I have swept back or flat bars on all my bikes with nice grips, and the handlebars are level with or above my saddle. And I have biggest tires I can fit, and I don't have clip-in pedals, I have flat pedals. So those are the things I do to have a comfier ride. But I kind of want to break it down. You know, I don't want to just go boom, boom, boom down the list and not talk about it a little bit, especially because I love talking about stuff, and kind of gives me an opportunity to run through the catalog a little bit. You know, I love kind of using this as a reference point. That's really what it's for. Yeah, which pedal was it that I wanted to mention more specifically? Like when I'm running on my other Atlantis is the Gamma pedal from that Rivendell did. That's kind of an updated Lambda. The Lambda is what I have on this Atlantis, and it doesn't have the pins in it, and it's a little bit of a different shape. That other one has a little bit of a rougher finish. You can grip just a little bit better. I feel like in inclement weather, both are kind of fine. So as you can see, it has a textured surface and wide platform and long. And, you know, I have bigger feet. My feet are about 15 and a half, 16, depending on what I'm wearing. And this works plenty fine, and it's nice. And with the Gamma, it's actually, like I said, it has pins. So it really kind of locks you in, a lot like a mountain bike pedal, but not so much that you're thinking, I actually can't get off of this pedal. And I find that that's the case with a lot of mountain bike pedals, which is fine. If you're mountain biking and you're going down some crazy stuff and you're wearing mountain biking shoes and you don't want to lose traction, that's great. For me, I'm mostly around town, and then when I do go riding, I'm out on, you know, some fire roads and light mountain bike trails up in Marin. Nothing that would require that sort of retention. So again, having really good pedals, it's really the contact points, your handlebars, your saddle, your pedals, and that works for me. So these pedals are really great. And I might as well just kind of move along what it is that I have on this bike to talk about the points that I want to make. So we're at an angle here, but let me have us come to this point. You can see that while my stem is a little bit below my saddle height, the handlebars are even or a bit above, and then they're angled a little bit back, so that it has a very comfortable resting point. So this is something that's really extolled by Grant Peterson over at Rivendell, and it's something that a lot of folks who are serious about bikes and serious about being comfortable on bikes have bought into, and with good effect. It's true. If your handlebars are above or even with your saddle, you can be much more comfortable, not bent over. And I find that I ride more, I get stronger, I am not really too slowed down. I'm also not in a competitive kind of situation. I feel like that's very different. But as far as someone who recreates and commutes by bike, I can go really fast. I was actually out with a friend yesterday. We rode down here to South San Francisco to grab some burritos. I guess anything for a burrito. And he said, you know, you were going fast and then you just start pulling away. And I just didn't know you had that much more power in that bike. You know, I didn't know you had that much more power to pull away. And that was with this bike and these bars. So I don't think that having bars like this has to limit you. I think that, in fact, I am faster and ride more because I enjoy the experience of having bars like this. And then, for reference, these are, in fact, the first version of the IRD brake levers that came out. They were before we had any branding. And don't mind the New Bombs gunk on the bar. This is a long-term loan bike, and the true owner of this bike, they had new bombs all over here. And let me tell you, God, this is tough to get off. I've been using some steel wool and a little bit of alcohol, and honestly, I take it about 10 minutes at a time. I've gotten most of it off, but not all of it. Don't judge me. And then the other contact point is obviously the saddle. And I'm a big fan of leather saddles. I think leather saddles are wonderful, but I think that there's something that suits every kind of rider, every kind of person. And so while I have a vintage Brooks on here, I have a Gilbertude Aspen on my other Atlantis. I think synthetic is fine too. I like leather because it shapes with you, it kind of molds with you over time. And, you know, I found that running a saddle at even or a little bit up, especially with a Brooks, and even sort of the case with a Gilbertude, works really well for me. Anytime I'm running a synthetic saddle though, or a leather saddle with more of a rigid structure in it, kind of like the Steve Potts saddle that we have, having cutout is wonderful so that there's no pressure on the perineum. I've found that I definitely have numbness if I don't have a cutout on synthetic or something that is leather with a rigid or more rigid kind of foam foundation. So those are the tips that I followed. They've worked really well for me. I'm riding as much or more than I ever have because I am comfortable. And am I going to be leading the Peloton through every stage of the tour next year? No, those aren't my aspirations. My aspiration is to ride as much as I can and drive as little as possible, because I found that the more I ride, I'm generally more content. There are other problems, obviously, that still exist in my life that don't go away, like paying taxes and I don't know, plenty of other things, but at least I can get out on my bike and ride. So I hope that was helpful. I mentioned this because this is a great reference point, whether you're putting a bike build together or just kind of seeing what it is that's out there. I don't think it's the end all be all, but I think that it can aid you when you're kind of doing some research about how you can make your bike more comfortable. Like these bars, these are the Bosco bars. They're in here. I'm using ESI grips on my bike, but they're very much like the Gordo grips. I'm using Lambdas. We have some versions of the Lambda in here. And then again, I use the Gamma pedal on my other bike. And then while we don't carry Brooks, we have the Steve Potts, but you can always just go buy a Brooks saddle. I think they're wonderful. So anyway, hope that was helpful, and I look forward to hearing what you all have to say in the comments.